make this shirt. Then let's deal with the front first. The interlining for the seam, fold this fabric in half, then draw the width of the seam allowance. It's the same width as on the template. Then press the line onto the drawn line, then unfold it. It's like this. Then use a jade iron to press it. The door reinforcement has been completed. Now let's handle this front piece. Draw the outline of this front piece, then press the line here to secure it. It opened with just a pull. Once this is completed, you can cut it out. The pieces are cut and ready for joining at the front. There are just 2 points to consider. Align the chest and waist parts. The front piece has been stitched together, then make the back piece. This is the cut piece for the back. Then let's talk about the lining and the outer layer. The seam allowance for the outer layer is 1 centimeter. Then the lining is 0.5 centimeters. So we cannot use the same board material. Everyone should use their own. The back piece needs to be trimmed. Cut this into a hollow design. Then all such hands look like this. Cut into a hollow shape, then draw on this fabric, then draw a line in the middle. Fold it like this. You can also do it without drawing a line. These 2 points are aligned. Then like this. This way, flatten the crease. Then you can just press the line. After this hand is done, this hand is a bit large, so trim it a little. Then perm it a bit, then curl the back like this, then with the point at the front, sewing it together. It's just sewing the back side. After sewing it together, it needs to be unfolded. Then the next step is to make the pear fabric. The method for making pear fabric is the same as for facial fabric. This is its pear cloth. It also has front and back drawstrings. It's the same as the drawstrings on the facial area. Adjust it to tighten like this. Once it's completed, sharp seam stitching. This is pear fabric. When processed, it looks like this. The powder must be spread out. Monochrome pear fabric and fasces. Then this part is, the next step is to attach the collar. In total, there are 2 collar pieces. One collar is attached to the front side and one to the back side. This collar has a bit of a shape. This point needs to be aligned. From this perspective, this point, then it's about the shoulder seam until the center back. Align the assembled collar. The collar can be secured from the center. Find a point to secure it, then seal it on both sides. Then this part, the aluminum nest here can be shaped to a point. It should be visible. After shaping it to a point, it will fit well with this collar. The lining is the same. This is the pointed collar of the doctor. This collar is not needed. Then the next step is to attach the sleeves. This is for the facial area. Sleeve. This marked point is the front, this is the end of the sleeve, and this is the front of the sleeve. Sleeve here at the sleeve. Press 2 lines of gathers. Just press it on this horizontal box. Then the second line is here in the middle. Cutting. Then this starts to sketch. The quality is extremely low. It's approximately long, just look at it from the side. It has a shape similar to this, a turning point. Then Zhao's face. Facing the sharp point, repair the end point. To the sharp point, the finishing touches on the entire outfit and sleeves. Once they are aligned, then make slight adjustments to the sleeves. Adjust them to ensure they're of equal length. At this curve here, this is at the bottom of the page, there are no pleats. Concentrate on repairing the shirt. It's at the halfway point of the repair process. There are pleats. Then compare it. They are of equal length, then you can stitch them together. This is the stitched sleeve, then embroider. Here, under the armpit, it has quite a large curvature. You can make 3 cuts. Then when you're making the sleeves, it can be a bit easier to do. You can do it without cutting, then cut it after sewing. I cut this after sewing. If there's a cut under the armpit, it won't feel awkward when you wear it. The effect here will be better. And then, finally, cutting at the end is also fine. If the effect doesn't look good, then you can adjust the sleeves. This is where the sleeve dragon is. Once the sleeves are sewn together like this refers to the cuff. This one, frost line paper extraction. Then proceed with this cuff. The ends of the sleeves are stitched together. Pull it to ensure equal length. Then secure it in place and make further adjustments. Pull to the same length, then secure it and make further adjustments. Pull to the same length, then secure it and make further adjustments. This fold. Adjust this fold to match its length. Then this part, secure the two large sections. Now adjust the folding amount. The fold amount should be reduced at the back, then it piles up a little more in front. Then, once it's done this way, we splice it together, then splice it together. Oh, it's upside down. Why did I get interrupted? Then stitch it together. Then the next step is here at the cuff. Hem 0.5. Lower the line. The next step after finishing the cuff, it's the collar of the fabric and the face. The upper collar is stitched here. The end points of these two pieces must align exactly. Align the end point and then the side. Then it should align perfectly at the back center. Then if it's hard to do, you can trim the sewing here, trim off half. The collar is nicely joined like this. Then let's take care of it now. Embroidered dragon's collar fabric. Then the pointed seam of the collar fabric and the pointed seam of the face. Align correctly, align better. Then secure it here for a moment. Secure the pointed seam like this for a moment. Then embroider the dragon. Align it. When stitching this, make sure not to exceed this line. If it has been sewn, it will deform on the front. It needs to be cut again. If it is a small size, if the sewing machine is hard to sew with, you can just use a hand needle. This needle area doesn't need to be too small. After stitching the dragon here, turn it over. Flip the back to the front. This is the needle. Then pull this over. Then the inside of the embroidered dragon is processed like this. The next step is to sew the side seams. First, sew the face and side seams. Then place the separated part at the end. Sew under the leaf here and stop. Sew under the leaf here and stop. Then handle the sleeves. Then this side. The sleeves are also sewn from here. Sew down to this point under the leaf and stop. Then, after the sleeves are sewn, turn it to the front, then handle the collar area. Then process the lining. This pile consists of the side seams of the lining. Then, like the first two, sew it to the underside of the leaf here, after the lining seams are completed. After the lining seams are completed, unfold it like this. Then just iron it a bit. Just record this once. This sleeve is done. Then the next step is to make the hem. The hem needs to be rolled. The front roll is 1 centimeter. Then the inner roll is 0.5. I first rolled the front. After it's rolled up, first stack it a bit. Once it's done like this, flip it over and lay it face up. Flatten the line. Press, 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 pressure, 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 pressure. Press 0.5 centimeters. Like this, roll the outer and inner parts well, then handling heavy materials. Heavy materials from within this area here, roll back by 0.5 centimeters. That's how it is. From top to bottom, roll 0.5, then press down a line. Then, after pressing the line properly, the approach on the other side, it's the same as this one. It's similarly rolled back to 0.5, then press the line down. This is not enough. The back is like this, Velcro, Velcro, all the Velcro. They all have a bit of fuzz. Then this side is hard plastic, and the other side is the hook side. This side is the fuzzy side. Sew trim after sewing properly. This must be sewn on top, this. The plastic should be placed on top. The cloth should be placed underneath. Pull it like this. Start from here. Then make a circle. If it is placed below, it will pull this one. The rear section will be extended quite a bit, and this one will also be. This is what pulls. Put this at the bottom. Start pulling from here. Keep pulling around. Then cut off the excess. Finally, this is the length. It must be the same. If there are variations in length, this indicates when it was created. It has been slightly extended. The main part of this garment, it's done. Then this is the finished bow product. Then it has two parts. This one is the smaller one. This small one is on top. The larger one is at the bottom. Fold it in half. Then draw this seam, a seam of 0.5. Then, but don't apply it all. Leave a hole. This is turned over from this hole. It was moved here earlier. This one was also moved here. Leave an empty space in the middle. Then flatten it like this. Then remove 0.5 from both sides. If the sewing machine doesn't work, if it's too small, use a hand needle. After organizing the thread on both sides, just flip it from this opening. That's not possible. The seam on this pot is too large. It needs some repairs. Otherwise, they will get stacked together when flipped. This is too small. We need to use tools. Turn it over again. Adjust it after flipping it over, that corner. Adjust it like this. First, flip it over. Then take this corner, use tweezers. Make it into something. Make it a bit more squared. Then you can stitch a few more here with a hand needle. Because it's below, you won't see it when it folds up later. Use thread in the same color. We will use white if we use this shade of pink. But the same color is almost indistinguishable. Here, after it is sealed, folding paper, there is only one sheet of paper, like this. Then just keep the wire around. This will be ready. Then do the next one. The next one is exactly the same as this one. It's just a little bit bigger than this one. It's easier to do than this because it can leave an opening. A little bigger, but let's not make it too big. Then the area you stitched by hand, these two bows. After everything is done, tied together. Also winding the wire. After these two are tied together. This is it. Using a fabric ring, you can just casually tighten a piece of fabric. Width ratio looks visually appealing. Wrap it this way, then sew it by hand with a needle. Here, the long trimming strip has been sewn. Then once this is done, just stick it onto the garment, this bow located at the bottom. It comes down easily with a pull. You can take it down by hand. This bow is complete. You just need to attach them together. Next, we'll make the skirt. This skirt is made with pleats, and this is the formal fabric. As long as there's a little extra fabric, extra fabric on the skirt panel. It's for convenience when working on the skirt panel to avoid you drawing lines on the wrong side. So both sides are constructed because it's too big. so it needs to be spliced. As long as you do a bit more. Actually, there isn't much. In total, it's just only counting the skirt panel. The skirt panel only has 2 pieces, but it takes up space, it occupies several pages, it can be cut out afterwards, and then assemble them. Let's piece together this pattern. This is the waist piece. Cut the waist piece. Cut 2 pieces, one for the outside and one for the lining. The outer fabric looks like this, the lining looks like this, exactly the same as this. Cut 1, and then there's another piece sewn below, the fabric inside the waistband of the skirt. Because there's a twist here, if it's not connected, then its paper collar won't be suitable. Then follow the line down the skirt panel, straight stitching. According to this, stitch according to the text inside the circle. If stitched correctly, this circle aligns perfectly. The front piece is directly ahead. This piece, these two need to align. Then this one is glued in front. The back piece has 2 sides. This makes it easier to work on. Actually, giving just one piece is also fine, but drawing the lines is not easy. So I made one for each. It's also like this. These 2 need to be connected. Then one is a front piece, 2 back pieces, left and right. Then 9 can be disassembled. Then how to draw lines. This is the front piece, right? First, outline it well. Then first draw the outline. Don't step on it. Draw the pleated lines on top. Let's mark a point here first. Follow what's above. The same goes for below. Then this pleat, this pleat, this pleat. The direction of this pleat, it means directing this way. And this one is symmetrical on both sides. Then draw the line like this. Fold it along the line and outline it. This indicates where the pleats should be. Then direct it this way. That's how it is. Then opposite sides face each other, facing towards both sides. Attach all lines to this fabric. Then it's the back piece. After drawing the lines, trim them. Cut off this part. Be careful not to cut it wrong. Then also cut along the lines. The fold of the side piece they are 2 pairs opposite, so it's a bit larger. It looks a bit larger, but it is the same size as the one in front. It's just to take this one. The empty space on the road. Cut this part off. This has been cut. Afraid of making a mistake. Write up the side and the side details. Mine is the back middle part. Then this is the back side. It's best to mark it. Then first stitch everything together. This is the front braid we just did. The front is mutters. This is the side, the front and back sides. Stitch it all together. Put everything together. So this character must be written down, otherwise it can easily lead to errors. It's easy to confuse the back middle with the side, then it won't be suitable once it's made. This colored piece, this is the front middle. Then the 2 sides are stitched together. This is the side stitching seam. This is also true. Let me explain. How do we do it this way? This is the front part. Next, this is the side. This is also the rear side. There are 2 rear sides. Then according to this, the marked text. Let me just piece it together. After it's pieced together, fold it, mark the joint. Made a mistake. There will definitely be a line here. Line. But this line is a broken line. It's not a place for folding. It's a line like this. After this is joined together, fold it again. Otherwise, this part can be done. This part. It's difficult to handle the side seam here. The side seam is oriented like this. Then this key refers to the finger. You can start by folding it like this with your hand. Fold it slightly to make a crease. If it's a hot cutting tool, avoid heating it first. If you heat it, it will disappear. Finally, after finishing the rolled edge here, you need to heat it again. If the trace of this line has disappeared, it will be lost. Then this will have been done for nothing. I'll give a general demonstration of how it's done inside. This part, this is the line folded from above. This means to sew this together. Sew it up to this point, then make a bend. That's all. Like this. Like this. Draw this line a bit deeper. Then you can see it from this side. Sew up to here. There's a 0.5 seam here, not illustrated. You can draw a bit at the front, walk out and fold it. Then turn around. This fold has been completed. There's a seam of 0.5 below. When I drew it, I only drew this part, and then this line below. I need to draw it by hand. Redraw it. After this fold is done, you can then sew this part at the waist, and this side seam is different from the others, because it is. These two folds are positioned opposite each other from this point. So it is larger because it is doubled. Now let's begin sewing the waist here. This is from the center, right? Sew from the center out to both sides. Let's start right here. This is just the first fold we made. Then, after flipping it over, this fold should face towards the center. Okay, it should look like this. Then do the second one. It's the same as before. You can just stitch this line, 0.5 from here to here. Start stitching from the middle here to the third fold on this side. Then stop here at the side seam. Let's talk about this part again. It has this kind of fold. So you can't sew directly to this point and then turn, but stop sewing here for a moment. Just sew to this point and then like this. Align this thread with it. This is aligned with a square. The others are sewn backward. Then sew from here to this seam and stop for a moment. This should be clear, right? Stop here, then flatten it, then sew from here to there, stop at the seam here. This side too, sew from here to here and stop. Then this is how a square is made. You can understand it when you see the front. This side is leaning this way. Then they are facing each other. Only this side is special. Everything else can be turned normally. Then below is a single one turned upside down. This fold is like this. Starting from the fold of the side seam, square fold, start, take this as the standard, then the front here folds this way, it folds towards the front center, it folds towards the back center. This is how it looks when turned to the front. Just follow this guide, then you won't get it wrong. So this part must be drawn. Just that. You won't get it wrong. This front side is the public symbol. This is the back middle. This side here, this is the front center. Then the front side. The method for this side is completely the same as this side. Then from that side, this is the middle. Start again from the middle. Here at the waist. First, fold this here properly. Then handle the baseboard first. The base plate has a rolled edge of 0.7, then press the clear line of 0.5. Also, let's fold it a bit now, then turn it to the front side, press it like this at 0.5, or 0.1 is also fine. After pressing the clear line, then take the paper underneath, iron it again. So this line is homemade. It can't be messed up anymore. It always has to be present. If that heat erase pen, it will disappear when heated. It is erased with water. Then shape it like this. There are some marks. Then apply heat again. When it was pressed for the last time, this pleat can be ironed. The trace of this thread, it can be pressed out completely. It's nicely pressed. This is how it looks. Next, the step is to attach the waist. Move to the waist area. This is the lining at the waist. This is the lining that was attached. It's these two pieces. First, cut this one. And this one. The waist is divided into two parts. Then cut the face below. The face and the inside are the same. It is also this piece, face multiplied by inside. After cutting the inside, one face remains. Regarding facial cuts, because it has a unique shape, needs a mirror panel, you only need to cut the mirror panel. Just the edge at the top will do. We will add it back later. To define this shape, draw it more accurately. Everything around it, do not touch this seam box. Just cut this top line. Then draw it down. Draw it down, I was wrong. Draw the reverse side. It fails after drawing the front side. After drawing it like this, then put back the adjustment material on top. The main focus of this drawing is the inner line of the waist. After drawing, it can be removed. So about this waist, it should be cut first. Inner section. Next, cut the front section. Because of this seam, when shaping the front section, it needs to be removed. I'll do it first. Waist section. If it's regarding the waist, if we do this first, this seam has been removed. The interior is hard to work with now. Then you will need to use this to draw another one. That works too. Then the next step is to align the face and the interior like this. Just press this line. According to what you just drew, draw this line. After pressing the seam here, trim the red seam a bit. Just trim a little bit here. The other areas can be left alone. Then flip it over. Flip it to the front side. This foot needs to be turned more straight. Then align the inner parts with the ones below. One is the waistband, one refers to the lower back, one refers to the lower back. These points should be aligned. Just a reminder not to make any mistakes. This is it, having a large curvature. Assemble it using the side with a greater curvature. Make sure not to assemble it backward. Once the waist section is connected, then sew it and unfold it this way. Then unfold it like this and sew. Press on the front. Press a line above and below the marked line. After you have pressed the line, this piece, join the waist and the front. Match the midpoint to the midpoint. Then sew from the center out to both sides. In the end, it should align perfectly. Here's one. The point is on the opposing seam. This is it. Once stitched together, you can press a defined line on this edge. Press a clear line. After pressing the clear line, the next step is to attach the bodice. The bodice connects with this piece. Connect to this waist. The bodice dimensions are noted on the waistline of the skirt. Then this one here is just like the earlier one, white background label. Then a clear line is pressed on top. While pulling, white background label, then pulling at the waist area. After pulling it and joining this with then it is also, after the stitching is completed, press a top stitch here. Press the top stitch well, then flip it over, here at the center back on both sides. Then clearly mark my stitching method. Sew it together. Then turn it over to the front. This foot needs to be positioned upright. If it's too large, just trim it slightly, then press down on the marked line, because in this area, this section will protrude. Press all around like this, here at the top, from the rear, then press the outline. Because of this place, this ceremonial department will appear. Press around in a circle like this area on top, from the rear, this ceremonial department will appear. Press around in a circle like this area on top from the back. Keep pressing like this. Here, pour it out. After pressing the clear line in the back center, then at this back center, the halfway position, make a mark. It's the position for the upper mode sticker. This is the plastic side. This needs to be placed on top. You should pay attention to this plastic. If it's placed on top, it will stretch this fabric, so it must be done on top. Align with this mark. Start pulling from here. Leave it a bit longer. Leave it a bit longer. Cut off at the end. After sealing it like this, trim it a bit, then seal the other side. This goes underneath, then look at this face, pull like this, then look at this face, pull like this, then look at this face, pull like this, then seal it again. This is placed underneath, then look at this face, pull like this, then look at this face, pull like this, pull around. If sealed up to here, it basically doesn't affect anything below. If you're worried it might leak, just like that. Draw back another line from here, pull it back completely, and seal it off. Not sealing it shouldn't be a major issue. This skirt, it's best for the main section. The attire and belt are also remaining. And then because my waist is quite slim, 12.8, less than 13, if that waist size is larger than mine. First, pinch at center back. If the center back is insufficient, next pinch from both sides. Mainly it's best to pinch at the center back. Adding around 0.23 is enough. Then there will be no problem. If it exceeds 0.23, it will need to be clamped from both sides. What I mean is 0.2 for half. Then if it's the whole thing, if it's 0.2 on one side, that would be 0.4. At most, add up to 0.4. At most, 0.2. So that's a total of 0.4. There's one more thing. It's the possibility here, and it goes up again. It can be like this, flatten it, and inside it's also leveled at this seam here. Press down on this seam. Let's make one more. Let's move on to the next step. The waist plate and belt around the waist. This one is wider for the waist plate. You can also make it narrower to suit your preference. That's fine too. Let's start with this waist. Fold it in half. Iron it after folding. Then draw a seam that is 0.5 centimeters wide. Draw a diagonal angle at the edge, because this makes it easier to put on a belt. Then first take this part out. Once this part is removed, then press the stitch along this seam. Ensure all lines are pressed well. Then trim the seam, trim it down a bit more, otherwise it won't turn over. This fabric is fairly smooth, it's good for flipping, and now let's do this, sharpen this, shake it a bit by hand. Create a point. Then wrap it a few more times to make it firmer, to avoid falling. To avoid it after finishing, it became disconnected. It tipped over. This is the back half of the pillow. Once you put it in, this is the back, Don't use fish scissors. It also pricks your hand, and it's hard to walk. I can walk well. This clue should be left a little longer. And then here, be a little careful. Pulling too hard can easily break the line. First, flip this corner over a bit, then pulling it will be easier. Then if you pull back again, it will be very easy. This corner should pass through a little more. Then it becomes easy if you pull it back. It was a bit difficult to start there. It was a bit difficult to start there. It was a bit difficult to start there. Then use black liquor. Then there will be pleats hidden inside. You need to fully unfold this pleat. Doing it this way can be a bit of a hassle, but I want to make a waistband without visible stitches. So you flip it inside out. There's another way. If the pleats are hidden inside, then take this pipe, insert the nasal pipe, open it up. It's too small this time. Stretch it like this, then the pleat will fully open, then press it with the iron. It can be done even faster. If you don't fix it, this belt will look very narrow. Iron it like this. It has been pressed flat, and if you still have patience, just tuck this back in. Seal this part off. You can sew it with a hand needle. Otherwise it will stick out. There are frayed edges, and here, if the sewing machine is difficult to operate, so small, just sew it with a hand needle. After this opening is sewn up, then put on the belt. This is a pointed toe. Then thread it through here. Let's secure this again. If the machine's corner is wide, you can stay a bit further away. I sewed it by hand. Then the next step is to proceed with thread the strap. Then you will have the wide one. The wide one is also like this. The fold needs to be flipped. This is also about folding it properly and sewing. Then take out the thread. Remove the thread, remove the thread, remove the thread, and repair the sewing. Remove a portion. Turn it over after taking out the thread. Then follow the same method as before. The method for the waist is the same. This is essential. At the beginning, a bit more solid. This is just the strap that was made earlier. A sample has been made, and this is reduced to this length. This is 4 inches wide, approximately around 1.2. Well, about 1.4. And then it needs to be more than 1.4. Leave 1 centimeter more, which is 2.5. Just leave it a little longer. Then the excess can be trimmed off. Don't make it too short. Make a mark. Make it symmetrical. Fold it at this position, then draw it again. Fold it back. Fold it back. There's a lot more inside, more than this. The outer line can be a little longer, about 0.34. Then this fold line, then place it at this mark. Secure it with hand stitches. You can also use a sewing machine. If the sewing machine is easy to use, then it is an industrial machine. You can also take a break from the sewing machine for a moment. Then I just sewed by hand. The spacing here shouldn't be too large. It should just be 0.1 in a clear manner. That's how it's done. Then for each one, this is the strap that has been neatly stitched, the first two, the last two. Then this is the belt. The skirt is done. The next step is to make a bow.